Do you know how much this contract you destroyed is worth? Millions! You're fired! Get out of my company, NOW!
Do you know how much this contract you destroyed is worth? Millions! You're fired! Get out of my company now! The billionaire's voice thundered through the room as coffee dripped across the million-dollar contract, spreading like a stain on his empire. Chloe Bennet stood frozen, her hands trembling, every eye condemning her as the incompetent assistant who had just ruined everything. But behind her silence, something felt off. Was it really a careless mistake? Or was there something more hidden in that moment? Before we begin this emotional story, tell us in the comments from which city you are watching, and don't forget to leave your like to keep following us. The chandelier's golden light shimmered across the polished oak table as silence shattered into chaos. Coffee streamed over crisp white papers, spreading like a dark wound across the million-dollar contract. Crystal glasses rattled and gasps filled the air. Alexander Reed shot up from his chair, the veins at his temple pulsing. His voice roared through the luxurious conference room. "Are you out of your mind, Chloe?" His finger jabbed toward her trembling hands, the tray slipping in her grasp. Chloe Bennet froze, her uniform immaculate only moments ago, now stained by the amber splash of coffee. Her chest rose and fell quickly, but her eyes, those wide, steady eyes, didn't match the image of a clumsy mistake. They held something else. Across the table, Omar Al-Fayed pushed back his chair with a dramatic groan, throwing his hands in the air. Karim Al-Hassan clutched his head, muttering in frustration. Their theatrical outrage only deepened Alexander's fury. "You ruined it! Do you have any idea what this contract means? This was a billion-dollar opportunity." His voice cracked like a whip in the silence. Chloe opened her mouth, but no words came. The tray in her hands rattled softly, silver against glass. She stood in the center of the room like an accused criminal, under the weight of his gaze and the investors' stares. "Get out!" Alexander barked, his voice cold now, slicing through her. "You're finished. Don't ever step foot in this office again." Her throat tightened, but she didn't plead. Her lips pressed together as if locking away the truth. She only lowered her eyes, her fingers tightening on the tray before she turned toward the door. The room's atmosphere thickened, the silence between Alexander and the investors electric. Omar muttered in Arabic under his breath, shaking his head in exasperation. Karim gestured sharply, the frustration etched deep on his face. Alexander slammed his palm against the table. "Enough excuses. We'll fix this. Michael." From the far end of the table, Michael Turner, his most trusted advisor, leaned forward. His brow furrowed, his eyes flicking briefly toward the door Chloe had just walked through. He'd seen her hands shake, but he'd also seen the unusual calm in her eyes. Something about it didn't sit right, but Alexander was too blinded by humiliation to notice. He dragged the ruined papers aside, drops of coffee soaking into the polished wood, and growled, "Draft another contract, right now. We're not letting this deal fall apart because of her." The crystal chandelier above seemed to sway, catching the reflection of the ruined contract on the table. And in that shimmering light, the truth of Chloe Bennet's action, unseen by all, remained buried for now like a secret sealed in silence. The heavy oak doors closed with a muffled thud, sealing the world outside. Inside, the conference room gleamed with quiet grandeur. Crystal decanters filled with water, golden trim along the walls, and a chandelier spilling light like melted glass over the long, polished table. Alexander Reed adjusted his cufflinks, his suit tailored so sharply it seemed to cut through the air itself. Confidence radiated from him as he leaned back in his chair, a man accustomed to winning. His empire stretched across New York, and today he believed it would expand into the Middle East. "Gentlemen," Alexander's voice was smooth, commanding, "shall we finalize history?" Omar Al-Fayed and Karim Al-Hassan exchanged courteous nods, their silk suits whispering elegance. They slid into their chairs with practiced grace, their smiles wide but never touching their eyes. They spoke in polished English, warm and deferential. Yet in the quiet pauses between sentences, their gazes met, quick, loaded, unreadable. At the edge of the room, Chloe Bennet poured water into crystal glasses, her movements precise, almost invisible. She had perfected the art of silence, blending into the background like furniture. Still, her ears caught fragments of their conversation, tones that shifted when they believed no one was paying attention. Karim gestured to the thick folder resting before him. The contract. Everything we discussed is here. A partnership for decades, Mr. Reed. This is the beginning of a new dynasty. Alexander smiled, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. He barely glanced at the folder. Michael Turner, seated beside him, opened the document carefully, scanning with professional scrutiny. But Omar leaned closer to Karim and whispered something in Arabic. It was quick, almost playful, but the curve of Karim's mouth twisted at the edges. To anyone else, it would have been nothing more than casual murmuring. Chloe's hand hesitated in midair, water pitcher trembling for a heartbeat before she steadied it. Her pulse quickened. The words, she understood them, not just fragments, but full, clear meaning. She pressed her lips together, the secret burning against her silence. The meeting pressed on, Alexander's voice filling the room with ambition. We're on the brink of revolutionizing the market together. Once I sign, nothing can stop us. The investors nodded eagerly, though their glances in Arabic spoke of something darker. Chloe lowered her gaze, moving quietly around the room, her mind racing. She wanted to scream, to rip the folder from the table, but her role chained her in place. She was the assistant, the girl who fetched water, brought coffee, took notes. Who would believe her? Her eyes flicked to Alexander. His jawline sharp, his presence commanding. He was blind to the danger sitting right across from him. The chandelier hummed above, casting shadows that flickered over the papers. Chloe's fingers tightened around the tray she carried. She had already made her choice. If no one else could protect him from the trap about to close, then she would, even if it cost her everything. The polished table reflected every movement, every flicker of light, as if the room itself were holding its breath. Michael Turner kept flipping through the contract, his pen scratching quiet notes in the margins. Alexander Reed leaned forward, chin resting on his clasped hands, his eyes locked on Omar Al-Fayed. So, Alexander, Omar began smoothly, once you sign, distribution rights in North America are secure. The revenue potential is limitless. Alexander's smile widened. That's exactly what I want to hear. But Chloe Bennett, standing just a step behind him, caught the subtle smirk that passed between Omar and Karim. They exchanged a few words in Arabic, quick, like the hiss of a match striking flame. Her body stiffened. She froze mid-step, tray balanced against her hip, while their voices unfolded in a language she knew too well. Once he signs, we own the infrastructure, Karim murmured, lips barely moving. The fool has no idea what's hidden in Clause 17. Omar's chuckle was soft, predatory. By the time he realizes, his empire will belong to us. Let him celebrate tonight. Tomorrow, he'll be nothing but our puppet. The words sliced through Chloe like shards of glass. She gripped the tray so hard the silver rattled against porcelain. A drop of sweat traced down her temple. Alexander didn't notice. His eyes glowed with ambition, already picturing the headlines. Reed expands global empire. He was deaf to the venom curling from their whispers. Chloe's gaze darted toward Michael, but he was buried in the document, oblivious to the trap. Her chest tightened. Should she speak? Reveal that she understood Arabic? No. The thought of it twisted inside her. She had spent years hiding that part of her life, burying the language that tied her to a past she rarely spoke of. To reveal it here now could unravel everything she had worked for. And yet, what choice did she have? Her breath hitched as Karim leaned back, his voice now louder, switching seamlessly to English. Mr. Reed, we've ensured the contract is simple, straightforward. A quick signature and the future belongs to all of us. Chloe's heart pounded. She knew the truth. Once he signed, it wouldn't belong to all of us. It would belong to them. The chandelier's glow blurred as tears pressed against her eyes, though none fell. Her lips trembled, forming words she couldn't let out. She glanced at Alexander, his posture powerful, his certainty unshakable, and her decision hardened. She couldn't warn him with words. Not yet. No one would believe her, and worse, the investors might realize she understood. So she lowered her gaze, her mind already racing, already crafting a desperate plan. A reckless act that would make her look like a fool. but might be the only thing that could save him from losing everything. The tray in her hand suddenly felt heavier, as if it carried not coffee and china but the weight of his empire. And Chloe knew, before the pen touched paper, she would have to act. The fountain pen glided across the table, placed delicately before Alexander Reed. Its golden tip gleamed beneath the chandelier's light, poised like a dagger waiting to strike. "Sign here," Omar said smoothly, sliding the contract forward with a gesture of triumph. His eyes glittered with something darker than excitement, something closer to hunger. Michael Turner cleared his throat. "Perhaps I should," but Alexander cut him off with a raised hand. "I trust them, Michael. This deal is the future." The investors leaned back, confident. The trap was seconds away from snapping shut. Behind Alexander, Chloe Bennett's breath shortened, her palms slick with sweat, her mind screamed with every word she'd overheard. The empire he had built, the lives of thousands of employees, his very name, about to be stolen with the stroke of a pen. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She clutched the silver coffee pot, its heat burning against her skin, grounding her to the choice she was about to make. If she stayed silent, his empire would crumble. If she acted, she would become the fool, the villain, the outcast. Alexander's hand wrapped around the pen. Chloe moved. In one swift, trembling motion, she stepped forward, her wrist flicking. Coffee arced through the air in a dark, steaming wave. It splattered across the polished oak, soaking the pristine pages of the contract, staining them beyond repair. The room erupted. Gasps, a chair scraping back violently. The scent of roasted beans and scorched paper filled the air. Alexander shot to his feet, his chair slamming against the wall. His roar cracked through the room like thunder. "For what have you done?" Chloe stood frozen, chest heaving, her hands shaking but her chin lifted ever so slightly. The ruined contract dripped dark stains across the table, the ink bleeding like spilled blood. Omar cursed under his breath, his polished mask of diplomacy cracking. Karim slammed his palm against the table. Unbelievable, such incompetence. Chloe's lips parted, words trembling on the edge, but Alexander's fury silenced her. His hand slashed through the air, pointing toward the door. "You just destroyed $1 billion deal in front of me. In front of them. You're finished, Chloe. Get out." The weight of his anger bore down on her, yet her eyes flicked toward him, lingering just long enough to whisper a silent truth she couldn't speak aloud. Then she lowered her gaze, bowed her head slightly, and stepped back, gripping the tray against her chest. The investors muttered among themselves, their sharp Arabic whispers lost in the storm of Alexander's rage. Michael sat rigid, watching, his sharp eyes catching that flicker in Chloe's expression. Not guilt, not clumsiness, but resolve. But the billionaire didn't see it. He was too blinded by humiliation. His empire teetered on the edge of collapse, and in his mind, it was her hand that had shoved it. The chandelier swayed faintly above, its light glinting off the soaked, ruined papers, the million-dollar dream dissolving into a coffee-stained blur. The silence after the outburst was heavier than the marble walls surrounding them. The contract, drenched and unreadable, clung to the table like a corpse. Alexander Reed's chest rose and fell with fury. His voice dropped, colder now, more dangerous than his roar. "Chloe Bennett," he said, each syllable sharp as glass. "You're nothing but an embarrassment. Do you realize the magnitude of what you've done?" Chloe gripped the tray against her stomach. Her knuckles whitened, but her gaze never rose. Not once. She stood as still as a statue carved from shame and silence. Omar spread his hands in mock despair. "Mr. Reed, we traveled across the world for this deal. And this," he gestured toward Chloe with disdain, "this incompetence threatens everything." Karim added, his voice a hiss. "Is this how your company operates? With careless girls ruining contracts worth billions?" Alexander turned toward them, his jaw tightening. "You have my deepest apologies. This," he shot a look back at Chloe, "will be dealt with immediately." Michael Turner leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Alexander, maybe we should—" "Enough, Michael!" Alexander's hand slammed onto the table. His eyes returned to Chloe, blazing with contempt. "You've humiliated me in front of the most powerful men I've ever negotiated with. You've cost this company its future." Chloe swallowed hard. For a fleeting second, her lips parted as though to speak, perhaps to defend herself, perhaps to reveal everything. But then she closed them again. A quiet strength steadied her features. She would not plead. "Pack your things," Alexander said, his voice cold enough to frost the air. "You're fired. And I don't ever want to see you near my company again." The chandelier above glittered cruelly, light bouncing over the polished table where the ruined contract bled coffee into ink-stained rivers. Chloe lowered her head, turned, and walked slowly toward the door. Each step echoed in the cavernous room, the sound of a life breaking apart, yet refusing to collapse. Her silence unnerved Michael. He watched her leave, his pen tapping anxiously against the contract folder. Something about her composure didn't match the act of a clumsy mistake. The investors exchanged satisfied glances, though too quickly, too sharply. Karim leaned toward Omar and muttered something in Arabic, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. Michael caught the tone, not the words. But Chloe, she would have understood every syllable. The doors closed softly behind her, and the conference room seemed to exhale. Alexander dragged a hand down his face, fury simmering beneath the surface. "We'll salvage this. I'll have a new contract drafted immediately. This deal is not over." Omar's lips curved into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Yes, Mr. Reed, of course." But under the golden chandelier, the room carried a shadow of something more sinister. The empire Alexander believed was safe was already one stroke away from vanishing, and the only person who could have warned him had just been cast out. The conference room smelled faintly of scorched coffee, the bitter scent lingering like a curse. The ruined contract had been swept aside, its pages limp and stained, but the shadow of what had happened still clung to the air. Alexander Reed leaned forward, his voice sharp, restless. "We're not letting this collapse. Michael, draft a new agreement. Clean, precise. We'll have it ready before the day ends." Michael Turner nodded, though his eyes remained troubled. His pen hovered above his notebook, but he hesitated, glancing at the investors. Omar Al-Fayed chuckled lightly, though it sounded strained. "Mr. Reed, with respect, that is unnecessary. We already have the perfect document. Just a fresh copy. Clean pages, no coffee stains. Why waste time?" Karim Al-Hassan joined in, his tone firmer, almost insistent. "Exactly. We prepared this contract carefully. It reflects every detail of our discussions. Just let us bring in another copy. We'll sign tonight." Alexander tapped his knuckles against the table, frustration simmering. He hated delays, hated obstacles, and the humiliation Chloe had caused still burned in his chest like acid. "Fine. Bring me a fresh copy then. But Michael," he turned sharply, "I want you to review it line by line." Michael inclined his head. "Of course." Omar's smile stiffened for a fraction of a second, a crack in the polished mask. "Naturally. We welcome scrutiny. You will find no surprises." But Michael noticed the way Karim's eyes darted toward his partner, the quick exchange too subtle for most to catch. His gut stirred uneasily. He drew the contract closer, flipping through its soaked pages despite the damage. The ink blurred in places, but sections were still legible. His brows knitted as he scanned a paragraph buried deep in the middle. "Clause 17, he murmured under his breath, almost to himself. Alexander arched a brow. "What about it?" Michael didn't answer right away. He traced the blurred words with his fingertip, squinting, trying to piece together the fragmented sentences. Something about ownership, control. The chandelier hummed faintly above, its golden light bathing the table in a deceptive warmth. "Probably nothing," Michael said finally, though his tone was cautious, not convinced. He closed the folder and set it aside. "I'll wait for the clean copy. I'll read every word before you sign." Omar spread his hands, his smile returning too quickly. Of course, we trust your diligence." But beneath the table, Karim's foot tapped rapidly, his jaw tight. Alexander didn't notice. His mind was already chasing headlines, profits, expansion. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling sharply. "Good. Then let's finish this before the night ends." Michael sat in silence, his pen tapping against his notebook. He couldn't shake the unease. Chloe's sudden act, her silence, her eyes flashed in his mind again. It hadn't looked like clumsiness. It had looked like purpose. And now, as the investors pressed harder to rush the process, that unease settled deeper into his bones. A knock echoed against the heavy doors. Moments later, an assistant entered carrying a fresh folder, crisp, clean pages stacked neatly within. "The replacement contract, sir," she announced softly. Omar Al-Fayed's smile sharpened as he gestured. At last. Now no more interruptions. Alexander Reed extended a hand eagerly, but Michael Turner intercepted, pulling the folder toward him instead. "Allow me." Alexander frowned but said nothing. Michael flipped the first page open, scanning quickly, his finger running along the dense paragraphs. The ink gleamed under the chandelier's light, every line pristine, every clause polished. Too polished. "Straightforward, isn't it?" Karim asked, his tone silky, almost mocking. Michael hummed, his brow furrowed. He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing as he reached the middle sections. Clause 17 again. He read slowly, lips moving silently. Ownership transfer in the event of default. Administrative rights consolidated. Licensing terms indefinite and irrevocable. His pulse quickened. He flipped back and forth between sections, the trap revealing itself piece by piece. By the time he reached the final clause, his stomach dropped. He snapped the folder shut. "Alexander, don't sign this." The billionaire's head whipped toward him. "What?" Michael's jaw tightened. "This isn't a partnership agreement. It's a hostile acquisition disguised as one. You'd be handing over controlling rights to your entire empire the moment you put pen to paper." Omar's chair scraped back violently. "That is absurd," he barked, his accent thickening with fury. "We negotiated in good faith." Michael stood, his voice steady, steel beneath restraint. "Don't insult me. I've reviewed contracts my entire career. Clause 17 alone strips this company from Alexander's hands and delivers it directly into yours. The rest of the document only reinforces it." Karim slammed his fist against the table, his mask of patience shattered. "Lies. You Americans twist everything. Do you think we came here to play games?" Alexander's face drained of color as he turned toward them. His confidence, once unshakable, wavered. "Is this true?" His voice trembled with fury. Neither man answered. Their silence was enough. Michael dropped the folder onto the table, the papers scattering. "This is fraud. You almost walked him into financial suicide." The chandelier above flickered faintly, the golden light casting sharp shadows over Alexander's face, as realization struck him like a physical blow. He leaned back slowly, his hand gripping the arm of his chair. And then, an image returned to him. Coffee splashing. Chloe's eyes, steady and unafraid, as if she had known exactly what she was doing. The way she hadn't begged, hadn't defended herself. His chest tightened. "Chloe," he whispered under his breath. For the first time since the chaos began, Alexander Reed saw the possibility that the woman he had humiliated and cast aside might have been the only one who had truly protected him. And she was gone. The conference room had fallen into uneasy silence, the ruined contract lying like a dead weight on the table. Alexander Reed's jaw clenched as Michael's words echoed in his head. Fraud. Hostile takeover. Suicide. He pushed back his chair abruptly. "Find her," he snapped to one of his junior staff waiting by the door. "Now." The assistant nodded quickly and rushed out. In the corridor outside, Chloe Bennett walked slowly, each step a battle. A small cardboard box rested in her arms. Her notebook, a framed photo of her parents, a coffee mug she'd kept on her desk. The humiliating weight of Alexander's words still pressed against her chest. "You're fired. You're finished. Don't ever come back." She had heard those words before in other forms, in other lives. They cut deeper every time. Yet she hadn't regretted her choice. Not for a second. She had saved him, whether he ever realized it or not. Her hand brushed against the photo frame in her box, her father's stern but kind face staring back at her. He would have done the same, she thought. Protect what matters, even if no one thanks you. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallway. The junior staffer appeared, slightly out of breath. "Miss Bennett? Mr. Reed wants you back. Now." Chloe blinked, her grip tightening on the box. For a moment she considered refusing. To walk away and never look back. But something inside her, pride, defiance, maybe hope, turned her feet back toward the conference room. When the doors opened, silence fell once more. Every eye fixed on her. Omar Al-Fayed and Karim Al-Hassan stiffened in their chairs, exchanging a sharp glance. Michael Turner leaned back slightly, his gaze steady as if waiting for her to speak. Alexander stood at the head of the table, tall and unyielding, but his voice, when he spoke, was lower, rougher than before. "Chloe." She set the box carefully on the floor beside her feet, then straightened, her shoulders squared. "I need you to explain," Alexander said. His tone wasn't the roar of earlier. It was restrained, pulled tight, with something harder than anger, suspicion, maybe even regret. "Why did you do it? Why ruin the contract?" Her lips parted. For a heartbeat, no sound emerged. The weight of the truth pressed against her ribcage, fighting to break free after years of silence. The chandelier's light flickered across her face as she lifted her chin, her eyes meeting his without hesitation. "Because I understood what they were saying," she said softly. The words rippled through the room like a stone dropped into still water. Alexander frowned. "What are you talking about?" Omar shifted in his seat. Karim's hand clenched against the armrest, knuckles white. Chloe took a slow breath. Her voice steadied. "They weren't discussing partnership. They were planning to take everything from you in Arabic. They thought no one else could understand." The silence deepened, sharper now, suffocating. Michael leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. You speak Arabic?" Her gaze flicked briefly toward him, then back to Alexander. "Yes," fluently. Alexander's breath caught. The image of her steady eyes as she spilled the coffee flared back in his mind. She hadn't been careless. She hadn't been incompetent. She had been protecting him. And suddenly the ground beneath his fury began to shift. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the faint hum of the chandelier above. Alexander Reed's expression was unreadable. His fury had cooled into something far more dangerous. Realization. "You..." His voice was low, almost disbelieving. "You knew all along?" Chloe Bennett's hands tightened at her sides. Her throat ached, but her voice came steady. "Yes, I understood every word." Omar Al-Fayed's chair screeched against the floor as he pushed it back abruptly. "This is outrageous," he barked. "How dare you take the word of a maid over ours?" The insult stung, but Chloe didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on Alexander. Michael Turner rose slightly from his seat, his hand flat on the table. "She's telling the truth, Alexander. The contract proves it. Clause 17 wasn't a mistake. It was a weapon." Alexander's jaw clenched. His gaze flicked back to Chloe. "Why didn't you say anything? Why hide it until now?" Her chest tightened. This was the moment she had dreaded for years, the secret she had buried. She drew in a trembling breath. "My parents immigrated from Lebanon when I was a child," she began, her voice soft but steady. "At home, Arabic was the language of our dinners, our stories, our prayers. It was a part of me. But outside..." She paused, her eyes glistening. "Outside, it made me different. People treated me like I didn't belong, like I wasn't American enough." Her voice cracked for the first time, but she pressed on. "When I started working for you, I promised myself I'd never let anyone see that side of me. I didn't want pity. I didn't want to be the girl with the accent, the outsider. So I hid it. I never told anyone I spoke Arabic, not even you." The room was still. Even the investors, restless and furious, remained silent. Tears threatened, but Chloe blinked them back. "When I heard them whispering about stealing everything from you, I panicked. I couldn't expose them without exposing myself. I thought, if I spoke up, no one would believe me. They'd laugh. You'd think I was paranoid, desperate to prove myself. So I made the only choice I could. I ruined the contract. I made myself the villain to stop them from destroying you." Her words hung in the air, raw and unpolished, stripped of any defense. Michael's eyes softened, admiration flickering in his gaze. Alexander remained silent, but his hands gripped the edge of the table, the muscles in his arms tense. For the first time in years, the billionaire who always had answers seemed struck speechless. Omar slammed his hand down, his mask of civility finally breaking. "Lies!" She twists our words. Chloe turned sharply, her voice cutting through the room with newfound strength. I heard you. You said he would be your puppet. You laughed at how blind he was. You thought no one could understand, but I did. Her words lashed like fire, and for the first time, Omar's confidence faltered. Karim shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his silence betraying him. Chloe's chest rose and fell, her courage blazing through the humiliation she had endured. She looked back at Alexander, her voice quieter now. I couldn't watch you lose everything, not when I had the power to stop it, even if it meant losing my job, even if it meant losing your respect. The chandelier's glow caught the glimmer in her eyes as the room held its breath, waiting for Alexander's judgment. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Every eye in the room was on Alexander Reed. His empire, his pride, his very identity, balanced on the weight of his next words. He rose slowly, his chair groaning against the marble floor. His gaze swept over Omar and Karim, then settled on Chloe Bennett, standing small but unbroken at the far end of the table. For the first time that day, his voice carried not anger, but gravity. Gentlemen, he said, turning toward the investors, this meeting is over. Omar lurched to his feet. You cannot be serious. We came across the world. Alexander cut him off with a raised hand, sharp as a blade. And you tried to rob me of everything I've built. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I'd be blind. He leaned forward, his tone like iron. But someone in this room saw more than I did. Karim shifted, his mask slipping into raw frustration. You'll regret this, Reed. No one turns us down. Alexander's glare burned cold. The only thing I regret is ever sitting across from you. He pointed toward the door. Get out. The two men exchanged a dark glance, then gathered their papers with bitter haste. Their polished shoes clicked angrily against the marble as they stormed out, the heavy doors slamming behind them. For a long moment, the room exhaled. Only three remained: Alexander, Michael, and Chloe. She stood frozen, unsure whether to step forward or retreat. Her hands twisted nervously, but her eyes stayed locked on his. Alexander approached her slowly, each step deliberate. When he stopped in front of her, the weight of his gaze pressed heavy. I was wrong, he said, his voice low but clear. The admission seemed to scrape against his pride, yet he didn't look away. I judged you without listening. I humiliated you, and you still protected me. Chloe swallowed hard, her throat tightening. I didn't do it for thanks. I know. His jaw tightened. For a man who ruled boardrooms with unshakable confidence, this was something else entirely. Vulnerability. But that makes it matter even more. He drew in a breath. I don't want you as my assistant anymore. Her chest clenched. A quiet ache spread through her, though she forced her face to remain calm. Then he added firmly, I want you as Director of International Relations, effective immediately. The words struck like a lightning bolt. Chloe blinked, stunned, her lips parting but no sound escaping. Michael broke into a rare smile. She's more than earned it, Alexander. She saved this company tonight. Alexander's eyes softened, his hand lifting slightly before falling back to his side. You proved yourself braver than anyone at this table. You saw what I didn't, and you risked everything to stop it. Chloe's voice trembled as she whispered, I thought you'd never forgive me. He shook his head. No, Chloe. It's me who needs forgiveness. For the first time since the chaos began, she allowed herself to smile. A small, fragile smile, but real. The chandelier above cast its golden light over them both, no longer cold and sharp, but warm, almost merciful. In that moment, the billionaire who had nearly lost everything found redemption not in his empire, but in the quiet courage of the woman he had cast aside. And Chloe Bennett, once invisible in the shadows of the boardroom, stepped into the light, not as a servant, but as a leader. In the end, Alexander Reed learned that power and wealth can blind even the sharpest mind, but truth has a way of shining through the silence. Chloe Bennett, once dismissed as invisible, proved that courage sometimes hides in the quietest voices, and that sacrifice can speak louder than ambition. Their story wasn't about contracts or empires. It was about dignity, trust, and the strength to do what's right, even when the cost is high. And in that strength, A broken bond was rebuilt, not with pride, but with humility. May this remind us that even in the darkest moments, when everything seems lost, hope can still rise in the most unexpected places. Sometimes, the person the world overlooks is the one holding the light. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this heart-touching story. Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Subscribe and turn on the bell to receive more stories that inspire and transform. Leave a like if you believe in the invisible strength of dignity and family. And above all, thank you for being part of this community that believes in stories with soul. And before you go, watch the story I leave here on the left. I'm sure it will also move you and make you reflect.